Here's a psychological fact you're not prepared for. The person who reacts the least almost always has the control. And here's the worst part. Most people don't even realize they're losing power to someone who appears cold. Psychologists call this emotional asymmetry. And once you understand it, you're going to see why some people dominate conversations, relationships, and situations without raising their voice, without arguing, and without appearing aggressive. By the end of this video, I'm going to show you the exact psychological mechanisms that make this work. And more importantly, I'm going to reveal the hidden rule that cold people follow that everyone else breaks. This isn't about being heartless or manipulative. This is about understanding power dynamics that are happening right now in your life, whether you're aware of them or not. So pay attention, because what I'm about to explain will change how you see every interaction from this moment forward. First, let's talk about how your brain decides who has the power. Look, your brain is programmed to read emotions as signals of hierarchy, not consciously, but instinctively. This happens below the level of your awareness, in the most primitive parts of your brain that evolved to navigate social structures. When someone gets upset easily, your mind registers them as reactive, and reactive is perceived as controllable. Think about it. When you know exactly what will trigger someone, when you can predict their emotional response, you unconsciously file them away as someone whose buttons you can push. You might not think about it in those terms, but your brain does. On the other hand, when someone maintains their calm, even under pressure, your brain interprets one single thing. This person doesn't depend on me. And that commands respect. It's not a choice you make. It's an automatic calculation your brain performs based on emotional displays. But here comes the part nobody wants to admit. Most people confuse coldness with disinterest, and that mistake costs them respect. They see someone who doesn't react emotionally and they think they don't care, but that's not what's happening. What's actually happening is that person has mastered something most people never learn, emotional independence. Now, the second principle, silence as an invisible psychological weapon. Cold people often dominate without talking much because they understand something crucial. Silence creates a void, and voids make others expose themselves. While you're explaining, justifying, or defending yourself, the cold person is listening, and the more you talk, the more information you give them. This isn't active manipulation. This is passive advantage. And this is the reason why many times you feel like someone won an argument without having said almost anything. Let me break down what's actually happening in these moments. When there's silence, most people feel compelled to fill it. It's uncomfortable. It creates tension. So they start talking, explaining, oversharing, and every word they speak is data. Every justification reveals what they're insecure about. Every explanation shows what they think they need to defend. The cold person, they just wait. They observe. They gather information while giving none away. And here's the hard truth that most people don't want to hear. People don't follow those who feel the most. They follow those who appear to need the least. That's why cold people typically don't beg for attention, don't chase validation, don't react impulsively, and without even trying, others start adapting to them. Have you ever noticed how in a group there's often one person who barely speaks, yet somehow everyone is attuned to their opinion? That's not an accident. That's emotional asymmetry in action. Before we go deeper, if what I'm sharing is making you rethink your interactions, do me a favor, hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. This type of content takes real research and careful thought to create, and your support tells me you want more of it. Drop a comment below if you've experienced this dynamic in your own life, whether you were the cold person or the reactive one. I read every comment, and your stories often inspire future videos. Now, let's get into why almost nobody realizes when they're losing control. Third principle, why almost no one notices they're losing control. You know why hardly anyone notices this? Because it doesn't look like control. It looks like calmness. It looks like indifference. It looks like a strong personality. But underneath, something very clear is happening. Whoever reacts less directs the emotional rhythm, and whoever directs the rhythm has the advantage. But be careful, because this is where most people make a critical mistake when they try to copy this. Many people try to become cold by repressing their emotions, and that's not control. That's accumulation. That's building up pressure until it eventually explodes in ways you can't predict or manage. True psychological coldness isn't about turning off emotions. It's about not handing them over automatically. It's about not responding immediately, not over-explaining yourself, not reacting by reflex. There's a massive difference between emotional suppression and emotional discipline. Let me give you a concrete example. Imagine someone criticizes you in front of others. The reactive person immediately defends themselves, explains their reasoning, maybe even gets visibly upset. They've just handed over complete control of the situation. The cold person, they might pause, acknowledge the comment with a simple, "I hear you," and move on. No defense, no explanation, no visible emotion. What just happened? The reactive person showed exactly where they're vulnerable. They revealed what matters to them, what can hurt them, what they feel they need to defend. The cold person revealed nothing. They kept their cards close. And here's what's fascinating. The observers in that situation will often perceive the cold person as more confident, more secure, more powerful, even if they don't consciously understand why. And this next part explains why some people, even though they're good, intelligent, and empathetic, always lose control of situations. Fourth principle, the rule that cold people follow and everyone else breaks. Cold people understand something that almost no one applies. Not every stimulus deserves a response. Your brain wants to react to relieve tension. That's its default setting. Tension feels bad, so your brain pushes you to do something, say something, fix something to make the tension go away. But here's the truth. Every reaction is a surrender of power. Strategic coldness is about choosing when yes and when no. It's about selective engagement. It's about understanding that some battles aren't worth fighting, some comments don't deserve acknowledgement, and some provocations are designed specifically to make you lose your composure. Here's the truth many people avoid. If you always react, you always play on the other person's field. They set the terms. They control the emotional landscape. They decide what matters and what doesn't. And you're just responding to whatever they throw at you. Think about it in terms of a tennis match. If you only play defensively, always returning serves, you never control the game. The person who serves, who initiates, who decides the pace, that's the person with strategic advantage. Emotional interactions work the same way. If you want to start recovering psychological control, start with these specific practices. Reduce your emotional speed. Don't respond to everything instantly. Create space between stimulus and response. That space is where your power lives. In that gap, you can choose rather than react. You can evaluate rather than impulse respond. Talk less, observe more. Information is silent power. Every conversation where you're doing most of the talking is a conversation where you're giving away more than you're learning. The person asking questions and listening carefully is gathering intelligence. The person talking endlessly is exposing their entire hand. Don't explain yourself without being asked. Respect isn't negotiated with justifications. When you constantly explain your decisions, your choices, your reasoning, you're essentially asking for permission to exist as you are. Secure people don't ask permission. They make choices and own them, tolerate silence. Whoever can handle silence usually dominates the interaction. Silence is so uncomfortable for most people that they'll do almost anything to fill it. If you can sit comfortably in silence, you have an enormous advantage because you're not compelled to give away information or position just to ease discomfort. This isn't about being cold to people. This is about being the owner of your emotional energy, because when you control yourself, others feel it. They might not be able to articulate what's different, but they sense it. Here's a dark piece of data. Psychology is clear on this. Whoever shows more emotional need automatically loses power, not because they're weak, but because they reveal information. Every exaggerated reaction, every excess explanation, every attempt to please tells the other person exactly where to press. Cold people don't dominate you because they're better than you. They dominate because they don't expose themselves. They don't give you the map to their vulnerabilities. They don't hand you the tools to manipulate them. And that's not about being closed off or emotionally unavailable in relationships that matter. It's about discernment. The key distinction is this: you can be warm, open, and emotionally available with people who have earned that access through trust and care. But you don't owe that level of emotional transparency to everyone. Not every interaction deserves your full emotional display. Strategic. Coldness is about protecting your energy for the people and situations that actually matter. So here's what I want you to take away from this. Emotional coldness isn't about being heartless. It's about being strategic. It's about understanding that in many interactions, the person who cares less or appears to care less has the advantage. Not because caring is weak, but because visible desperation is a liability. If this video made you see past interactions with new eyes, if you suddenly recognize patterns you've been living without understanding them, then you need to hit that subscribe button right now, because we're going deeper into these psychological dynamics that shape your life every single day. Here's your assignment. For the next 3 days, practice the pause. Before you react to anything, a text message, a comment, a criticism, a provocation, create a 5-second pause. Just 5 seconds. In that space, ask yourself, does this deserve my emotional energy, will? Responding, give me power, or take it away. That simple practice will begin to shift your entire relationship with emotional control. And if you want to go even deeper, check out my next video where I break down how to detect a manipulator in seconds. That one will completely change how you navigate relationships. Remember, the goal isn't to become cold. The goal is to become conscious. Conscious of when you're giving power away. Conscious of when your reactions are serving you versus serving someone else. Consciousness is the first step to control. Subscribe, hit that notification bell, and I'll see you in the next video where we continue exploring the psychology of influence and power. Until then, stay aware, stay strategic, and stay in control of your emotional energy.